Alright, so hi and welcome to my presentation in the course TDDD27 Advanced Web Programming. My name is Jacob and my project is a web application for backtesting stock strategies in the Nordic stock markets and then allowing you to share these strategies with other users. So if we start off with looking at the architectural overview of the application, I'm using Angular for the front-end framework. And I've been using Angular material components as my main component library. For the server, I've used a two-server structure. So I have one main Node Express server, and this one handles authentication and storage. And then I have another Python server, which acts more as a task server for the actual back tests. For storing users, active sessions, as well as strategy backtest results, I'm using MongoDB, and I'm using Mongoose for the ODM to easily interact with the database. Also worth mentioning is I'm using TypeScript on both the Angular frontend as well as the Node Express server. If we look at the Python server, it exposes a very simple fast API with one route that allows you to start a backtest. And then it also covers all of the backtest logic for testing strategies, as well as interacting with the third-party API that I'm using, which is push data. And this allows me to fetch in stock data, so both price data and KPI data for the last 20 years in the Nordic stock markets. And these gray boxes are supposed to resemble Docker containers. So everything runs in Docker and is orchestrated with Docker Compose. And the main idea behind dividing it up into two separate servers, so a separate task server for the backtest, is that the API limits us in how many requests we can do. So we have a 10 requests per second limitation. And therefore some of the backtests can take quite a long time to perform. So I try to divide it up like this so that we don't have a stalling server that just takes up a lot of resources. This have worked somewhat well, I guess, but there's definitely room for improvement in how these two interact with each other. Alright, so I guess it's time to jump over to the demo then. So here is the login page of the application. So we have a pretty basic UI here. We have the ability to log in here, as well as signing up or registering with a new account if you don't already have one. And currently all of the other routes are protected, so you need to log in to be able to access them. So if we try to create an account, we can just quickly try to do that. And these all also have validation, and that's true for this one as well. So that checks for valid email addresses and so forth. So if we make sure that the passwords actually match, we can try to register an account. And now we can see that this username is already taken as well. So we do have some server-side validation as well that gives you feedback. So I'll just change my username and try to register once more. Okay, so that one was apparently taken as well. Interesting. Okay, this is not going great. Right, so now we get the feedback that our user has been successfully created and we can try to log in. So when we do so, we get a new alert here that we are now logged in. And now we're first presented with the actual backtester strategy builder view. And this is the main view of the application, and here is where you define actual strategies and then start backtests. But I will quickly go over the other views first because they are pretty simple. So in the feed, we can see strategies from people that you follow. So currently it says that I don't follow anyone, so I have to check out the explore page and maybe follow users to get my personalized feed. and this is reasonable since it's a newly created account. So if we head over to the Explore page, this is supposed to be populated, as we see here, with other people's strategies. So here we can see cards resembling different strategies. So you can see some overview statistics like total return of a strategy, the cumulative average growth, and the maximum drawdowns of strategies. And if you want to see more information about a specific strategy, we can click on the View Strategy button here. And then we will come to the strategy specific page. So here we can also see the overview statistics as well as an equity curve of the strategy. So we can so each backtest starts with 100,000 in value, and we can see that this one ended up at around 600,000, something like that. And here we can also fill in more information. So we can see that the period of this backtest was between January 1st of 2005 and January 1st of 2021. And I do have a lot more data about the strategies saved as well, so that could also be added here, but I haven't really had time to do that. And here we can see the status that it has been successfully finished in terms of the backtest. We can also see that the user behind this strategy is Tony, and we can also follow Tony if we want to. So if we click this button, we now follow Tony, and if we head out to the feed again, we should now be able to see strategies, so the latest strategies from the people we follow, in this case Tony. We also have a button from here where we can view all of Tony's specific strategies, and we can also check out some other strategies, I guess. So if we head on back to the Explore Other Strategies, here we have another strategy. I guess this one is pretty similar. So if we head over to the backtester now, we can see that this first section here is for defining the actual metadata and the stock universe for our strategy that we want to test. So for example, I might want to test some form of value strategy, and we can set the access status. So public means that other people can see it in their feed or explore page. Private is for you only. Then we set the start date. So this is a period between where you want to test the actual strategy, and it supports the last 20 years. So in this case, I might want to test between 2016 and 2020 in interest of time, because the longer the period, of course, the longer time it takes to test the strategy. We can set a transaction cost that we want to apply to each transaction. And what I didn't mention is that this is a rebalancing backtester. So it only supports rebalancing strategies where you rebalance on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis on some form of filter formulas that we will get into later. So in this case, I want to do it quarterly. And now we come to the part of specifying the stock universe. So we can first do so by selecting countries. So here we have the Nordic countries. In my case, I might only consider Swedish stock markets. And now we can select which of the Swedish markets that we want to include. So it grays out those that we don't allow, like the Finnish markets, the Norwegian markets, and so forth. So I might want to consider the large cap, mid cap, small cap, and First North markets of Sweden. So I select those. Might be worth noting why these are in Swedish as well. So these are in Swedish because the API that I'm using gives you all of this type of metadata in Swedish. So that's the reason why this is in Swedish and everything else is in English. Alright, so then we can also specify which sectors we want to include. So this will filter out stocks that don't belong to these sectors that you choose. In our case, we want to include everything besides finance and real estate. So we'll do like this. Then we can see that those finance and real estate branches that are subsets of the sectors are grayed out, but we can select all of the other branches like oil and gas, different niches within oil and gas. And you can really be detailed here if you want to. Alright, so now we come to the part of specifying the logic of the actual strategy. So the idea behind this is that you define filters that are applied at each rebalance date, and then it's built up of 5 parts. So a selection criteria, a number of stocks, formula min value, formula max value, and an actual formula. So I said I wanted to create some form of value strategy. So in this case, we might want to select the 10 stocks with the lowest formula value in this case. And we want to set a limit, so a bottom limit of 0 and maybe an upper limit of say 20. And this min and max value is applied to the actual formula value specified here. And this formula can be any mathematical expression built up of the supported KPIs, so the key performance indicators of the stocks. So if you want to see which KPIs we support, you can click this button here, and then you get a bunch of options. So dividend yield, PE ratio, this is the price to earnings ratio. We have price to sales and a bunch of different metrics here that you can make use of in your formulas. So in this case, we wanted to do some form of value strategy, so we might add the PE ratio, and we can also type them directly down here if we know the abbreviations. So for example, price to sales ratio. You can also see that we have a validation in this one here. So it says that we have a formula error currently, since we have to complete the actual formula. We might also want to add like EV/EBITDA ratio, as well as the yeah, let's keep it like that. You can also add fancy things like parentheses. You can use exponents. So pretty much any mathematical expression of these KPIs and constants as well. So you could multiply this to give EV/EBITDA a higher weighting in this formula. And so how this works now, at each rebalancing date between so for each quarter between 2016 and 2020, we will check all of the stocks that are defined by these markets and branches, and we will, for each of the stocks, calculate the formula value at that particular date. So this is taking that stock's PE ratio, PS ratio, and EV/EBITDA ratio for that particular date. We'll calculate that so it evaluates to a value, and then we will sort them. We will filter out all that have values below 0 or values below above 20, I mean, and then we'll pick out the 20 or the 10 stocks that have the lowest value and buy those. And that's pretty much how the actual backtesting works. You can also add additional filters here, and then it will work like a pipeline. So the 10 stocks that come out from this first filter here will then come into this piped into the next filter here, and this filter will also be applied. And you can add as many filters as you want, but of course it adds more complexity and also takes longer time to test the strategy. You can also switch these around if you for some reason want to do that. So it supports drag and drop here. You can delete them as well. So now we might be happy with our strategy here that we've defined. So then we can hit this start backtest button, and that will then take us to the strategy page created for this new strategy. And we can see that the status is that the strategy backtest is currently running, so you could come back later for the results. But when it's finished running, it will look just like the others did in the Explore feed, and basically have those types of equity curves and those statistics as well. We can also see that we can view my strategies from here, and it changes the buttons, and the follow button disappears when it's on your strategies. So it recognizes that it's you that is logged in. Alright, so I think this covers pretty much everything. In the next video we will go into more detail about how everything works under the hood, how things are structured in the code, and so forth. So yeah, thanks for watching this video.